All right, so there's an interesting article I want to share with you guys titled "Sanders Cements Frontrunner Status After New Hampshire Win. Vermont Senator Expands Lead Over Biden to 10 Points." And what this article is about is a new morning consult poll. And if we scroll down, here are the pre and post New Hampshire poll numbers for the overall Democratic nomination, who's in the lead for the whole to win the whole thing. And so obviously Bernie Sanders just won New Hampshire. Pete Buttigieg was a Pete Buttigieg was a close second, followed by a rather strong showing from Amy Klobuchar. And if you look at the polling post New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders went up 4%. Joe Biden, meanwhile, went down 3%. And as a result, Bernie Sanders is now up 10% on Joe Biden, when he previously was only up 3%. Aside from that, the polling relatively stayed static. Bloomberg went up 1%, Buttigieg stayed the same, Warren went down 1, and Klobuchar went up 2. But the big takeaway here is that Bernie's starting to develop a commanding lead. And also, it's also worth noting that Pete Buttigieg, he really didn't get the bump that he needed. No, I mean, he definitely didn't get the bump he needed from Iowa and New Hampshire. The idea, I would think, in his campaign was that if they had strong showings in Iowa and New Hampshire, it would help bump him up in the polls so that he can compete in more diverse states, because he has very low support among people of color. Same thing with Amy Klobuchar, but she only received a 2-point bump and is up to only 5% in the poll. And Pete Buttigieg, he's only up to 11% in the polls. So that does not bode well for the rest of the Democratic primary. Let's see what else. All right, so here's a chart titled "Joe Biden Isn't So Electable Anymore. Democratic Primary Voters Say." So Democratic primary voters were asked who they think has the best chance of beating President Trump in November. Now, post New Hampshire, um, Bernie Sanders went up 6 into first place at 29%. So before he was 23%, but now 29% of Democratic primary voters were asked, and they said that they think Bernie Sanders has the best chance of beating President Trump. Bloomberg went up 7 to 25%. Joe Biden went down 12% from 29 to 17%. You see, electability, he's running on electability, Joe Biden is, but if you start losing, then the idea of you being the most electable, it doesn't hold true for people. Pete Buttigieg went up 2, Warren went down 4. To think about where she is now compared to where she was in the beginning of the campaign or just a few months ago, um, it's pretty crazy how far she's dropped in such a short period of time. And then Klobuchar, only 3% of people think she has the best chance of beating Trump. So that's interesting to see where the voters are at in terms of that. Let's see if there's anything else. What voters are thinking after New Hampshire. Democratic primary voters were asked whether they agree or disagree with the following statements. I am happy with the results of the New Hampshire primary. 45% say they agree, they are happy. So 45% of people like the fact that Bernie won with the close second finish by Buttigieg and a strong showing by Amy third. I don't know. It's hard to really read into this. Are they happy about the fact that Bernie won? Or are Buttigieg supporters happy that he finished in a strong second? I don't know. The winner of the New Hampshire primary will be the Democratic nominee, 33%. The Democratic Party is headed in the right direction, 59%. The winner of the New Hampshire primary can beat President Trump, So 45% of people think that Bernie Sanders can beat President Trump. 45% of Democratic primary voters. So, I mean, that's not a strong number, but we'll see if Bernie can improve on that. Because honestly, if you think about it with Bernie, issue by issue, when you look at it, the American people, they agree with Bernie when it comes to healthcare, making public colleges and universities tuition free, combating climate change. So the big thing for him is the media and like the establishment politicians, they've been at us, hammering at people for the longest of times that Bernie Sanders is inelectable. But it's just not true. When you look at head to head matchups, Bernie always beats Trump, going back to 2016, poll after poll after poll. So if Bernie can convince the electorate that he can beat Trump, he has a very good chance to run away with this. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.